Morning. So on behalf of Arts and Humanities, thank you so much for being with us today for Southeast Speaks. I'm Eduardo Alaman. I'm Instructor of Speech here at CCC Southeast. As you may know, we started Southeast Speaks last fall with the goal of connecting students, faculty, and the campus community with accomplished professionals. And our guest today brings a very impressive background to share with us all. He's a poet, a producer, a graphic designer, author, filmmaker, and musician. Today we welcome Derek Walker. Mr. Walker is from Dallas, which is where he proudly graduated from Carter High School. He then went on to earn his Bachelor of Arts in Mass Communication, Broadcast Journalism from the University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff. While at the university, he was a recipient of the Mass Communication Outstanding Student Award and Scholarship and served as co-editor of the student newspaper. His works have been featured by local and national news organizations, Dallas-Fort Worth 97.9 The Beat Radio, Broadway Dallas, and Best of Dallas, which hosts weekly open mic nights featuring poets, singers, rappers, and other spoken word artists. Additionally, both of his spoken word albums have received Grammy considerations. Mr. Walker says, through his words and melodies, he strives to honor the stories and struggles of his community, weaving together influences from hip-hop, soul, and Southern roots. He says his art is both a reflection and an exploration of identity, resilience, and the power of expression to spark change. Today, we get to hear about Mr. Walker's creative journey, his journey as a spoken word artist, skills he's developed, career highlights, and much more, including an excerpt from a poem. Later in the program, my colleague and instructor of speech, Dr. Courtney Harper, will be invited to the stage to ask Mr. Walker a few questions and take any questions that you all may have for him as well. So at this time, please join me in welcoming Mr. Derek Walker.
When I say feeling good, y'all say feeling better. Feeling good? Feeling better. Feeling good? Feeling better. Feeling good. Feeling better. I go by the name I Am D Walk, and I appreciate that introduction and the invitation. There are two places I love to be, places that I'm invited, and places and people who introduce me to other people, other things, and other possibilities. Now there's some rules to this thing we call spoken word. If I say something that you like, I need you to say Ashe. Somebody say Ashe. If I say something that you love, I need you to say speak poet. Someone please say speak poet. Speak poet. And if I say something that you do not like or you do not agree with, please do the same thing. It's all right with me. There's this idea that we've overcome something. The belief that coming is what we have to look forward to. My question is, what have we come from? And where are we now? Let me ask, will you come with me? Nightly and every day, I remember I have the grace to move the future forward, the future for us. Now, whether you think we are on the right track or not, we are on the right train for sure. So come aboard. Gracious to the ancestors and the forefathers who worked before us, as we harvest what they labor for us, whether few or plenty, the choice is yours. Will you come with me? You see, the land is promised and the dream is free, but to develop that, well, that comes with a fee. So let's build everything for us, by us. That's the only way we'll see. Your intention right now is giving everything it's supposed to give. No crabs in a barrel, because that's not a place we've ever lived. Now is the time. Now is the moment. Now in this place I give my own atonement. Love is opulence. Love is beauty. Love is understanding. Love is kindness. Love is you sitting right there with that thing on your head, about to do that thing with your face that I like to see you do, which is smile. Love is me. Love is us. Love is we. Make your beliefs be life. Make your beliefs be light. Make your beliefs be the representation of what you understand so that no one ever has to ask you what you believe. Make your beliefs be evidence. Make your beliefs be real. Anything less would be a lie to me. So I ask, will you come with me? Poem.
Speak, poet.
All right. No, I appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words and the snaps and just the feedback. I also know that great music is not only made with sound, but it's made with silence. And I appreciate just your presence, even your silence here. You don't have to feel compelled to say something. Just know that our presence is the reflection that we appreciate. All right, today we are having this conversation. It is actually National Poetry Month. I am a poet. And what I'd like to kind of talk about, Courtney gave me a title, right? Art and spoken word in motion. And I evolved it into what we see as creative currency. Someone say creative currency. Creative currency, right? And that's a career across spoken word, music, and marketing. And that's what we have the opportunity to do is utilize our creativity as a currency of connection. Currency also connects to jobs, connects to finance, connects to education, connects to information. And we talk about how the idea and the information is the commodity of an idea. Information is the commodity of an idea. Our ability to understand, interpret, to share, and expect feedback. That's the core of science and communication. So when we're talking about a career in spoken word, music, and marketing, I'm going to share with you just how I make it all connect and how we can make it connect together. And so the first one is framing the journey. One, as a graphic designer and a visual artist, I like to consider I operate in all the elements of hip hop, which are and connect to all your five senses. So you got the visual art. In New York, it was graffiti. In Texas, it was maybe the cars. Right? We didn't have to spray paint the buildings and the L trains because we had cars and dilapidated buildings here. So that's what we painted, right? So the idea of hip hop is about proximity, being innovative, and utilizing what you have. At the core of everything, we have ideas and we have words. We have language as art. So framing the journey from a visual standpoint, you can see I literally have a frame and I've got a Polaroid for some of us who understand what Polaroids are. It's Instagram, but in person. You could take a picture, it would print out, and it would show you what you had, and then you share it amongst the people who are around you. And so having that brings context to understanding how communication works. It's not only a literacy from a standpoint of reading the letters, it's the sound of the letters. It's the representation of those ideas, and it's the presentation of those thoughts so that other people can understand it. So framing the journey, that is a photo of me that has touchdown 33. I am from Dallas, Texas, Oak Cliff specifically. If you are in Dallas, you know that football is a major fun thing to do. It's also very risky, and my dad didn't want me to play when I got in high school. So, being me, I joined the band. Now, this is after I was playing the drums at church. Just randomly on a Sunday, one of the drummers didn't come, and I found the wooden cardboard pieces to the coat hanger and started playing. No one ever knew I could do it. I didn't realize I couldn't do it, and I could do it until I started. That was one of the first times I started to recognize how being present created opportunity, but also how being present allowed me to discover and imagine and reimagine. Even before that, if you could understand growing up in church, particularly in the South, it's either sports or academics. And every Easter and every Christmas, we would have these speeches. And I would have to orate my speech. Now, on the back end, my grandfather was a United Methodist pastor. Right? On the other end, my mom was a teacher. From another perspective, my father was a network engineer, and on my other grandparents' side, everyone was entrepreneurial. So all of these elements of legacy exist, whether they chose to have that or not. That's part of the DNA and the fabric of me in framing this journey of how I got started. So when we talk about opportunities and entering the marketing world, you have to, I have to market for myself. Once again, playing the drums at church, it got to a point where I was compensated, I was paid. This was in the 90s. They wanted to pay me $75 per week. You smiled. You know that is not a lot of money right now. We spend $75 a week on on subscriptions, right? So I also knew that the person who was playing the organ generated and made $350 a week. Well, for me, I had to market myself. I had to put myself in a position to garner what I expected to have. And I told them that I need $150 a week to play. They didn't want to, and they gave me a contract that had 75 on it in front of everyone at church, might I add. I didn't sign the contract. And my parents looked at me as, what are you doing? You do not say no to the church. If they're going to give you something, these are the talents that God has given you. And I'm saying, yes, Jesus paid it all, but you can pay me. Right? And that was about marketing. That was about establishing myself, not from a standpoint of worth, but just understanding how this thing operates. They saw me as a student. They saw me as a child, but I'm doing performative things in the same spaces as adults. If we're going to talk about equity, let's talk about it from that standpoint. And so in the 90s, I'm fighting for myself. And that's when I first entered the world of marketing and understood, oh, perception. Well, how do I shift their perception? What is their narrative? Oh, they see you as a child. Well, let me do this. I'll explain to you. I have to practice. I have to purchase this. I have to do this. All this preparation, if you break it down by hour, it was less than minimum wage at the time. So I had to reframe, once again, not just the journey, but entering the marketing world, I had to reframe and reposition how I operated. So using those skills is something that's been very apparent for me. When we talk about the origins of spoken word, still utilizing the church as a platform or space to gather where people are. It gave me a chance to say and recite these Easter speeches. It gave me a chance to understand what performance was. It gave me a chance to understand what theater was. If we think about it, the church as an institution presents the most amount of productions in the world. If you think about it, at least once a week, there are people in an audience and there's someone presenting, there's someone sharing, there's an exchange happening creatively. So the first place I was able to identify this creative currency and having kind of looking back reflectively at the origins of spoken word was hearing the pastor speak, was hearing my grandfather narrate and tell these stories. I mean, essentially we've got a book that we're telling stories about and comparing it and aligning it with relativity, relationship to the people. That's the same thing as positioning. That's similar to framing. So looking at these practices from a micro standpoint, I've deconstructed to see how these same practices exist from a spiritual faith standpoint in community, but also from a cultural standpoint and the lens of that. Well, if you've got community and culture, that's going to automatically connect to commerce. That's where we talk about having the career and the basis of where these ideas of spoken words and speaking words and working as an artist. And you see these photos, right? Some of them have words. I'm still reframing. This photo represents me understanding, the core of who I've been as far as working in music and creativity, but also getting into spoken words, but also being into marketing and understand how visual representation frames a narrative. So this photo represents Los Angeles back in 2000, pre-pandemic, we'll just say. I moved from Dallas to LA. I spent a tremendous amount of time after graduating college from Arkansas Pine Bluff, came back to Dallas and created a marketing agency. I started off needing business cards and ended up selling business cards. And my strategy was, if I can have a conversation with you about your business to design your cards, I'm gonna share something with you unexpectedly at an unexpected time. My basic pedagogy of marketing and communication and honestly just life is an unexpected gift at an unexpected time is a way to a person's heart. And so if I'm able to be present and you're coming to me for a business card and I share with you something about business, what I've learned, what I've gained, and what I understand, that's gonna create a relationship and a dynamic that expects only optimism. And so working with and developing this craft means also developing my audience as well as I'm developing myself and teaching and training them. Once again, going back to the 90s, they wanted to pay me $75. And I said no. I was willing to lay it on the line, to risk possibly getting in trouble because you said no to the church for an additional $75. And that set the pathway for me to be able to understand how to utilize time and space. And so LA represents a time of proximity. There are certain spaces that we have to be, we'll call it product placement, and looking at myself and my ideas as the product. Being in Dallas, what I did and accomplished took me about 10 years. What I was able to do I was able to do the same thing at a different level in 8 months in Los Angeles. Proximity means so much to how it's framed. The other part of that narrative is as I had success or as I had evidence of making my beliefs be life in Los Angeles, because of social media and how media works, people were seeing me and saying, oh, he's not here, he's there, and he's doing this thing, right? So sometimes having an identifying space for me was a way to progress my career, to not just be around where I've always been familiar and there's been a certain narrative. And literally to this day, I was drum major in high school. I can be walking through the airport and I hear someone say, hey, drum major. And I'm like, hi, how are you? I'm Derek. I'm an artist now, I do more. And that's the story and the narrative they have. I can have an opinion about it, or I can understand it and utilize that as a catalyst for developing and having connective, honest, real human relationships, right? So Los Angeles also represents a time where I produce a lot of music for TV and film. Within doing that, the core of what happened, imagine going to your favorite restaurant and they telling you, you own a restaurant and your customer telling you exactly what you want, what they want. I want a burger with bacon, grilled onions, jalapenos, avocado, and an egg. You're not gonna go and make them a burger without avocado. You're gonna make exactly what they want. In this process, I learned from a creative standpoint about how to maximize and utilize time, find out what the customer wants on the front end. With these creative briefs that were created for and presented to me so that I could create music for TV and film, told me, here's the synopsis of the scene, here's a scenario, here's the type of sound we have, here are 3 references. When they did that, my ability to turn out from a creative standpoint exactly what they wanted, it increased. And so we're talking about now moving and utilizing creativity as the speed of business, but also understanding that the core of that creative brief was words. It was words that drove that. So now, even if I can't or I'm unable to make the thing that I want, I can use words to describe how I want it to be. That takes me to my career within, let me go back. That takes me also to my career, well, let's go back to music. We're expanding into music. So as I understand music, it's the organization of sounds and silence. But also you can read music, so that's sight and visual. There's also words. Within words, you have certain cadences and rhythms that you utilize. So I'm using my principles of understanding in music and applying them to letters. I'm using my principle of understanding in letters to apply them to sound. Once again, the human sense is what kicks in. Our ability to articulate is the art of manifesting that idea into a belief. I have this core belief as well. It takes 2 steps to success. How many steps to success? 2 steps. The first is to have an idea. The next one is to make it happen. The creativity is how we identify what our options are. The best tool is the one that you've got. The best camera is the one that you have. So if I deconstruct that and minimize that to something even less, and not less, we'll say more minimal, what is required? It's words. At the core of everything, it's centered around communication. It's centered around comms. So when I talk about expanding music, my production in the TV and film for theme songs, etc., I also saw I don't necessarily have to write an entire script. I can create a theme song, have a concept, and the industry will put a showrunner behind everything that I want to do, and I can move at another speed. Right now, we're talking about the difference of speed between the idea of technology, the advancements of social interests, but also from a market standpoint. What is the market interested in? So how do we respond to what the market interests are? Using music and using something that is captivating like that is a way that I've done that. All right. And so this has all brought me into what I will read to you, a futuristic storytelling, poetic rap crooner, like a mix of Delta blues, country rap tunes about Southern life, art, and business in the South, the way I see it. Experiencing art as shapes, letters, words, and sounds. It's literally expressing all of our human senses. Our 5 common senses. What are our 5 common senses? Let's go. Anybody, tell me. Art.
Shapes, letters, words, and sounds.
Right? From one perspective, from a creative perspective, y'all clap it up for that. Clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. Right? Okay, so when we think about our human senses, we think about shapes. What sense does that evoke? Sight. Right? What are some of the other human senses? Somebody say it? Sound? Hearing. There we go. So sight, hearing. Say it again. Taste. Right? Touch. Smell. right? So now as we communicate, how do we connect with the human sense? When I say green, do you think of the color or do you think of food? Right? When I say blue, do you think of wind or do you think of color? When I say sea, do you think of sight or do you think of water? Right? So depending on your perspective, someone could be right or wrong, or they just see it from another perspective. So this idea of community and common unity and communication is all about connectivity, the network of senses of our internal universe connected to our external universe. Introspective, introspective. It's the conversations and the languages that the language of conversation first within ourselves. What story are we telling ourselves? What narrative are we sharing? This is how we frame the overflow of what others are experiencing. So the narrative that you say to yourself, how you frame it, is all based on how you decide. And understanding that with words allows me to see the other tributaries into other spaces, which allows me to kind of move across the industry. All right. And just finally, Derek Walker, I just love this photo. And just quick story about this photo. This photo came from a shoot I did with one of my former classmates back in elementary school. And I love being able to have time as part of the narrative for storytelling as we have relationships and create bonds. And so she was, I remember she could draw really well. Chelsea Woods was her name. She could draw really well and she was always into art. And she always said, I'm gonna do this art, I'm gonna do this art. And so it being understanding who I am with art, I've made my intention to find and identify people who have been wanting to do something for a while and involving them in what's going on with me. Right, it's the same idea as the basis of my marketing strategy, an introduction and an invitation. To invite someone to be a part of something, you can call it marketing, you can call it a friendship. It's all driven by a relationship, how we relate with and to each other, and how we make those connections. The other part from a marketing standpoint is that we're gonna look at interests and we're gonna look at behaviors. We can talk about the aspects of life that we didn't have a choice about, and we can talk about what we do have a choice about. The family you choose, the family who chose you. How we engage from that standpoint with our intention is what sets the difference. So whether I'm saying a poem at a church, someone may call it a sermon. I may be saying a poem at a rally. Somebody may call me a community activist. If I'm doing a poem at a business meeting, I'm a leader. The idea is that we are present with words that we share, the expressions that we have with others, and we're able to connect the dots and create a flow or a currency in the most creative way. Creativity is about innovation, creativity is about making a decision, and creativity is about intention. And as I close, I appreciate being able to kind of share this image. Derek Walker is my name. I use the name I Am D Walk as an acronym. I affirm me because the stories and the narratives that I share with myself have so much more value, so much more benefit to me as that overflows into my relationships with everyone else. I'm kind of going somewhere, bear with me. We good? Okay. So this idea of abundance and operating from the perspective of abundance. We can see that there may be a deficit, but we can also see that from a narrative standpoint, there's abundance. And so pouring into ourselves allows the abundance to overflow and to be shared with others. So when we talk about relationships, there's one identity that says to serve humans, or we share with humans. That's the difference between the intention with your humanity and with our presence and being human. No matter if you're selling bars of soap or you're helping people take showers, there's an intersection of your mission. So now what is your mission? What is your intention? And the words that we share, how we frame that, how we present that, the letters shape all of that. Because there's a perspective that someone has about the color brown that I may or may not have. So last part, if you write down the word, how do you spell brown, the color brown? Brown, how you spell it? B-R-O-W-N, brown. Now, if you write that word down in lowercase, B-R-O-W-N, and you look at it in the mirror, it phonetically spells N-word. Brown, B-R-O-W-N. N-word. Now, my question is, which N-word did you think? And what I want to share with you is I'm speaking about the inward perspective, the internal dialogue, and how does that show up and how is it reflected with yourself and for others. I appreciate the opportunity to share and look forward to this dynamic conversation with Courtney. All right, thank you. CC.
Well, thank you, D-Walk,
Thank
for
you,
that
thank you.
overview of your journey as a multi-hyphenate artist. So creative currency, so I have a couple of questions that hopefully will dig a little bit deeper into your career that spans across lots of different disciplines. So can you describe a pivotal moment in your journey as a spoken word artist that has shaped your creative approach?
One of the moments that have shaped my creative approach has been one of the times is I've done a lot of business, and being in the business world can create sometimes competition or the perspective of competition. And my realization of that was when my intention didn't show up what it looked like with others. And I started to just write. And so I was writing books. I was like, okay, maybe if I write books, that'll help me do it. I was like, okay, books take too much. I gotta write it out and get an editor, do all this. And so I had to deconstruct once again what was going on. And I'm on the board at the Black Academy of Arts and Letters, and I was talking to the gentleman, Mr. King, and I was hearing him talk, and I was like, I could write a poem that frames how these stories and these books that I have in more of a punchy way, but also as a funnel to connect with people. And then I started to look, okay, when I produce TV and documentaries, a script is a voiceover, that's a poem. And I just started to connect all the accoutrements of writing and these bits of information into something that's creative. And so once I understood that, I was able to say, you know what, let's use the art form and the creative writing perspective of art and poetry as a means of generating business. Because when I think about my marketing, your statement should be less than 7 words. Your tagline should be less than 7 words. So if I can't communicate this idea in less than 7 words, I've got to do something else. And so that's when I wrote my first album, Be Inspired Before Leaving Earth.
Okay, great, thank you. And that's one of the reasons why it's so great to talk to you, because you have been able to integrate all of these different disciplines, and you bring all of you to all of your experiences.
Yeah.
So my next question is, how has your experience in marketing and communications influenced the way you craft your messages, even with your spoken word, even with some of the TV and film work?
Yeah, overall, being able to craft my words is understanding my audience. Once I understood what the audience was interested in and were looking for, it gave me a chance to really hone in and lock into what they were expecting. If we use the food analogy, if someone's asking for a burger and I give them a steak, they may want this, they may be okay with the steak, but I didn't give them what they asked for. So from a standpoint of business, I also had to understand, yes, I can have all these great ideas and perspectives and have a creative approach to do this, and is that what they want? Once I position myself to understand very clearly what they want, I confirm it, which is part of the communication strategy or the science of communication. I have to now, here's what's been communicated, let me confirm what I understand, and then let me go through and provide what is expected. That also helped me cut down on my loss mitigation. I wasn't losing time, right? I was not in a situation where I was having to do many revisions, and that helped me to understand how to streamline the business. So the idea of art, in the abundance of ideas, how am I keying in and how am I able to deconstruct what I'm hearing into these key phrases of what they're interested in and recognizing the patterns and the trends and use all of the smarts that I have to get that. I don't want to just limit myself to their options. I have to focus myself on their outcome and what they're expecting. Does that help?
Yes. So let's talk a little bit more about music and poetry. So what are some examples of how you've been able to marry the two?
Oh, wow. So one, just as a creative growing up in church and just growing up in the creative spaces, I was able to see my pastor, Leonard Charles Stovall from Atlanta. He was a jazz pianist, but he was also a preacher. And we would be in rehearsals and playing, and he would be playing a song. He'd be playing a tune with no words, then he'll add words, and then he'll preach about the same thing. And I was like, wow, that's connectivity across the human sense. If you can't, if you're not interested in the words, right, based on interest, if you like words, you can connect with this. If you like music only, you can connect with this. If you like songs with words, you can connect with this. And I started to realize that a poem can be a sermon or part of a sermon or a scripture, right? It can be a title, but when I put sound to it, it's musical because it has phrases, it has movements, it has some dynamics and accoutrements of those principles. And so for me, I also sing. And so I can now be a poet who sings instead of a singer who poets, because if I can't sing, then I can just poet. But also because I can function as a poet and introduce singing or song as an expression, it's another way to connect with the human sense and just another dynamic of being able to translate and communicate these ideas as commodities.
Great. So with the marrying of music and spoken word, talk to us about your Grammy considerations. One, what is a Grammy consideration? And then two, you were recently at the Grammys and participated in some of the Grammy events.
Yeah.
So would you mind sharing some of that?
Oh
with
man,
us?
I'm so excited to share that. So the first part about, so the first one again?
What is a Grammy consideration?
So the Grammy consideration, so every year there's the Recording Academy exists. It's an organization of peers in creativity, sound recording, and we'll even say technology. One, you don't have to be a member to be a voting member. No, you don't have to be a musician to be a voting member. So one, everyone can be a part of the Grammys. Go to GrammyFoundation.com, you can become a member. You know, I can't say that you vote for me, but if you see something or hear something you like, you can vote. And so one, Grammy is part of the Recording Academy. And so annually there's an opportunity for submission. Through my partners, my music partners, Anderson Music Group and Empire Records, I am distributed through them as a national recording artist and have the opportunity for my music creations, my sound recordings to be recognized by my peers. And it's the same as many other industry awards. Teacher of the Year might exist, right? Campus Leader of the Year, some things like that might exist. So it's kind of that type of situation. The sensation or the feeling of being associated with that for me is it's very nuanced because I grow up listening to sounds and music and these artists and having a chance to be reviewed or considered in the same capacity as them is pretty nice. It's just cool, right? And it also creates a story and a narrative that exists for connectivity. When I mentioned Grammy recognized, okay, there's a certain level of ism, we'll say, that exists with that. And there's a narrative and an interest in what's going on with that. The other part, okay, there we go. The other part of that is the performance part is so dynamic. So because I've been in LA and working there, I've got some, we'll say, cool friends who do cool things. And I've been afforded the opportunity to host some events there. Now, one, this is a music event, right? It's got some of your favorite artists, musicians, from Stevie Wonder to Dr. Dre to the president of, and not just name drop, but like literally a small room, smaller than this, with dynamic, top talented, high performing professionals. To be in the space with them and to share these types of moments in the way that it happens. My friend's name is Adam Blackstone. He literally shares the stage with me. He allows me to go into the stage before he gets there to warm the crowd up, utilizing spoken word, but also for me, I think comedy is an important part of what happens. So understanding how to make people smile or creating a situation where there's some humor allows that. And my theory is a comedian is a poet who makes you laugh. Right, so if I cause that to happen, that's part of the crowd work, and that creates another opportunity for me. Well, it's also marketing. It's also placement. The amount of people I've met in being in the room with just being on stage to speak for 3 to 5 minutes and share, it creates memories. I think one of the coolest memories is having James Fauntleroy, who's written tons of hits like for everyone. To hear him say a line back to me from my poem, there's nothing like it. Well, from a marketing standpoint, it's called a focus group. You present something, you get feedback. Oh, he keyed out, make your beliefs be life, right? So that was something that stuck out to him. So what I do is with intention, as I get feedback from these words, I lean into that. And not about just giving more, but that seems to be something that stuck out. So getting audience feedback, or what we call call and response, you know, at church they'll say all the time, right? What's another one? The stars are at night are big and bright. Heart of Texas, right? There are some colloquial aspects of call and response that exist, and we're able to connect to that. If you don't remember anything else, it's possible you'll remember that. The stars at night are big and bright, right? I've got a new one, and I use it as a marketing tag for a marketing campaign. Everything's bigger in Texas, but everything's better in Dallas, right? I know where I am. Right? And it also extends to say everything's bigger in Texas, but everything's better where I'm from. And it creates a narrative and the interest. Well, where are you from? What's there that you have? So when we talk about bringing down walls or understanding how to navigate boundaries, utilizing interests that may be common interest or common unity is how the music connects. Once again, I say it's songs. Right? I use phrases that are choruses or hooks or these tags. It's all around us. My intention has been able to deconstruct, understand the minimal components of it, and represent it in a way that connects with you.
Okay. Great. Last question.
Okay.
So intentionality is a big piece for you in terms of being a multi-hyphenate artist and developing this creative currency. So what advice do you have for folks who might be waffling between a particular artistic discipline or how to marry something that is presumed to be business oriented like marketing and then music and then poetry? So what advice might you have for someone who might be a multi-hyphenate artist or who could be encouraged to be?
Yeah, operating as a multi-hyphenate artist is understanding my humanity. At the core, it's being human. Am I in a space where I can breathe? First, I'm okay. And if I'm in a space where I can't breathe, let's identify the options to breathe better. The core of that decision making is going to position us to see and understand how to utilize the history, the future, the present of the ideas, of the experiences of everything to reveal the best options, right? When I think about intention, that connects to your intellect, the transition. The idea of intention is for you to check that for yourself. So ask yourself, what is my intention? What is my intention now? What are my options? Then you go into what's required. What's required at this moment? Being a multi-hyphenate creative and just having access to all types of opportunities, the idea is to focus on what is available for now and could be beneficial for later. And so this dynamic of, have you ever been in a situation where you're walking, you're looking so far ahead, but you're tripping every other step? That means that something was happening with your decision making and your presence of your proximity. So being a multi-hyphenate creative is also about having stable emotions. Our emotions are for us. They are our responsibility. When we share them, we do open them up to be criticized, to be scrutinized, to be appreciated, to be disliked. Understanding that as a multi-hyphenate creative, rewind, understanding that as a human is the key to moving in this space as a multi-hyphenate, because how you identify in this moment could be different than how someone identifies you in a later moment. The word brown, write it down in lowercase. It looks like brown, but to someone else, it's phonetically spells N-word. So there may be some things about life that exist for you that you may not see in them, because we're all multi-hyphenate. I mean, America is multi-hyphenate. America is multi. Thought, socially, culturally, right? But also what connects us. Our stories may be different, but emotions we can understand, right? I don't have to communicate with my emotion to understand the sensation of being taken advantage of. I don't have to have a strategy because I understand what it feels like when someone is inclusive or considerate of me. Not that they did what I wanted them to do, but I can see that they were considerate of me. So now, how do I communicate consideration? Hey, I'm being considerate in this way. And so the core of the multi-hyphenate is one, communicating with yourself, understanding the story, and be willing to see yourself and other people for the first time again. That's what helps.
Well, thank you again for your insights.
I appreciate
So
it.
we've got some time left. If there are questions from the audience that you all would like to ask Derek. Hold on 1 second.
We're gonna take a pause. We're gonna take a pause. We're gonna take a pause. Pause for the cause. Pause. You're walking me, of course.
My name is Jaden.
Hi, Jaden.
So I do one question at a time so that everybody can have questions. But I guess I have you can stop me if the question is too much or anything. But my first question is, through your success in music, right? Have you ever had I have this I've always seen this perspective, or I usually see on the news where an artist, how can I say this? You know how that artist is this person, but through success and through years of success, it's you notice there's a change or a change in their personality. I guess that my question is, have you ever had through your successes, right? And you mentioned you've been in the Grammys as well too, or you're making more money, you're networking a lot through this success. Have you ever had a fear of losing yourself?
Oh, man. The short answer is yes. And so if I reframe it, I wouldn't necessarily say the fear of losing myself. I will describe it as I've been writing on this lately, so y'all get this. I'm coming out with a new book. The grief of gain. When you get to that level or you attain that thing that you want or that you're interested in and you show it, your beliefs of becoming life, the thoughts that you're having in your mind, it feels like a gain, right? You can see and understand this is benefiting me. I'm a benefactor of my decisions. But then also you see the separation that's happening amongst some of your peers, amongst your family, within yourself, right? It's when you recognize, okay, I gained a little weight, okay? Or this fits differently, right? Because it may not be weight gain. It might that this just fits differently, right? And so understanding how to remain stable in your emotions and understanding that I get to frame the narrative and the story is what helps that. And so yes, there have been multiple moments. It's happening now. It happens at a micro, it happens at a macro. And so we think about these life-altering events as these big things. These big things are just simply culminations of smaller, minimal things that happen over time. And so my remedy has been that time requires time because it makes the best story. Simply. So when I have this grief of gain or this grief that exists, or essentially grief is the idea of expecting something that is not anymore. The idea that I wanted this to happen, it is not this, right? That's technically grief, right? But the other part about that drives it is that our emotions are simply the feelings of our opinions. I keep going back to emotions because that is a central part of being able to stabilize our perspectives and how we move and make decisions. If we change our opinion, we're more than likely going to change and shift our emotions. And I hope that answers your question. Okay.
I got my question, but
Does anybody else have a question?
Rapid fire, go ahead, let's go. We're gonna bring you up to the chair, right? Nah.
my next question is, the general question is, how do you improve your marketing? I know, like, as a church musician, you mentioned, like, before, the church you went to was paying, like, $75 a week. I guess, like, what was kind of the steps you took to kind of take, I guess to realize, like, hey, I realize I can make more, I can do more, like, what's the stepping stone for that?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that. So one part of that, the idea of marketing for myself is positioning. Is essentially marketing is art with intention. And so utilizing media, if you want to write this down, media, messages expressed deliberately intending action. That's the acronym. Media, MEDIA, messages expressed deliberately intending action. So the messages that I have, how am I expressing them? Who am I expressing them to? What am I expressing them about? And utilizing this idea of expression as the way to communicate. Well, that's marketing. It just has an intention and maybe an outcome, anticipated outcome. The other part of that is I have to reimagine what my brand was. And that's another acronym, brand, be real and never deceive. So the other part about the message that you're expressing is to have a level of honesty with yourself. Be real and never deceive. Tell yourself the truth. Because you can put a frame around how you present the reality to others. And so when I think about the marketing, I think about the 4 Ps. Product is me, the idea. Placement is where and how I show up. Right? When I was doing video production, I knew that I could, as technology was advancing, I knew that I could show up with a cell phone and get the same end product as showing up with 3 cameras, a switcher, a monitor, and 2 other people. The perceptive value of that shifts, right? What I can do, I remember 2018, I made 6 figures literally with my cell phone because of my ability to understand how to just make things happen and just use production and video with the phones. And so the other part of that is understanding narrative and understanding what the values are for those you're engaging with. If I'm going to a corporate situation, I probably need to put on a jacket, right? If I'm going into another situation, and it's not necessarily I have to change myself, it's understanding my intention. When I go into this, what am I intending and what am I anticipating, right? It's the same as what I say about outcome. People say, I've heard conversations, I want residual income. That's cool. What you really want is predictable income. You want to be able to see and say, okay, this month is going to be this, or this job is going to predict this, I'm going to anticipate this. Now you can prepare for it. So the other part of that marketing is about preparation, how you prepared yourself to be. At the core of everything, communication is going to change every aspect of your marketing, and how you market is based on the ability to make art. At a core, your ability to communicate to an artist is going to be that. Your ability to be able to write down what you want to see and what you want to make happen is based on in writing. So I recommend writing as the key deconstructed skill set and communication to kind of guide you through your career in marketing.
Another question. When you write your ideas or when you're doing your poems, have you ever had this kind of like I know a lot of producers and musicians have like this thing called idea blockage, or they feel like their idea is like, it's not good, or they're not sure, even like it's that point where they're not sure it's like the right word or the right, is this the thing they should be doing? Have you ever encountered those problems, or how did you handle it if you did?
Yeah, I don't believe in writer's block. I just need a nap. I will go take a nap. I'll go drink some water. I will go do something that involves nature at this point, because I understand taking a deep breath and being in nature is going to be the best inspiration. It's going to be the best instruction to guide me to where I know I need to be. I'm probably overanalyzing. I'm overthinking, and anything over is not necessary. I even recommend to clients I work with, less communicating. Stop putting your emotions in your emails. Save your emotions for in-person engagement, right? Communicate with less. Get right to the point. Can you say this in 7 words or less? Challenge yourself. I'm gonna say it. Stop using ChatGPT to frame how you present yourself. It's not sustainable. And it only gives you what you like, and what you like all the time may not be the best. Right? Utilize it as a thought partner. I'm kind of probably going to some other places, right? Utilize AI as a thought partner and understand that you are the original AI.
And don't harass anybody.
Don't harass. No, harassing people is never a benefit to anybody or anything. And that's even the intention of your art. What is your art? What is the intention of your expression? When you're showing up, my intention to show up was to be present and share with the room in complete honesty. Everything else that shows up, do I do it at a podium? Yeah, I thought maybe I would be walking around with a mic on the stage, right? The options will always reveal themselves. And so that's part of the thing that I utilize as far as when I do have what feels like a block, is that I'm over communicating. I think over communication is a toxic response, right? Because we're trying to work through, but also understanding utilizing technology is an option. And I'm going back to AI, see AI as a calculator for words. Right, and being able to help you deconstruct what that is will allow you to utilize those tools. I say also, crutches cannot be a tool. No, crutches are a tool. Tools cannot be a crutch. So the reliance on things is what I also have to remove myself from. So when I have those things that I feel blocked by, it's that I've relied on something that is not a requirement. What can I remove? And I start taking things away. When I have blocks or when I can't get to a point I can't finish, one, take a nap. The other thing is take things away to see what other things are revealed as options.
Great. If there are not any other questions, back to you, Professor Eddie.
Thank you.